What is going on, Governors? Chiskel here, and today we're casting the Ark of Osiris League Season 3 Grand Finals, baby. This is going to be an exciting matchup versus the Realm of Anubis winner, Vietnam Victory, V636, battling against Overlord, OV. These teams have proven to be exceptional. The cream of the crop, the top of the top among hundreds, no thousands of teams. They have risen to be the top two. Now, there's a bunch of things you need to know about the Osiris League Grand Finals because, my friends, these are not your regular Ark of Osiris or even Ark of Osiris League matchups. This is a best 2 out of 3 matchup that is going to be played out over the course of several weeks. We are just on the first week. The first encounter, first blood between these two incredible alliances. Are you all hyped to see who's playing and how they're going to do? Are you all hyped to see which commanders are the very best? Because guess what? The new rules in this game mode are as follows. For the Grand Finals, in order to account for the fact that these realms are based on Kingdom Age, that's right, they're based on the Kingdom's Age, so you would expect Overlord, being the older kingdom, the older realm, has access to more commanders, perhaps to better equipment. But no, in this game mode, they scrap all that. Everybody has access to every commander fully maxed out. That's right. Every epic, every legendary, fully 100% max skills, max level, max stars. There's no equipment in this game mode, which means, my friends, you are looking at a very level playing field. Who's going to win? The team that's more skilled. This is by far the most level playing field for Ark of Osiris League in Rise of Kingdoms. The only main differentiator between these players in the game is, to my knowledge, just the VIP level, and that's it. So this is about as level of a playing field as you can get. I'm really excited for how this match is going to go. If we get a look really quickly at where you all placed your Oryx, it looks like folks are putting their Oryx very heavily on OV, and it's not a coincidence. That is the safest place to put your Oryx if you look at their history. OV is the winner of Season 1 of Ark of Osiris League and the winner of Season 3 for Ark of Osiris League for their realm. So if you just look at the history, OV is a safe bet, but just because someone's new doesn't mean they're not just as good, if not better. So I'm very eager to see V636 and how they will perform, because if you placed your Oryx on V636, the payout is looking quite glorious, my friends. So we'll see exactly who will be winning this matchup, and hopefully, these are close matchups. Maybe one team wins one week, one team wins the next week, so that we get 3 rounds of grand final opportunities to obtain more Oryx, to get these sweet, sweet goodies in the shop. I know you're all looking at these and going, yes, I'd like to have those in my collection. We are 1 minute and 7 seconds away from the matchup starting. Drop in the chat, what do you think the final score is going to be? Teams have been practicing all week leading up to this with their access to all commanders, including, by the way, none other than Nebuchadnezzar and Cyrus the Great, who are not even available to everybody else yet. Oh, yes. Oh, yes, my friends. We're about to see perhaps the new meta for Rise of Kingdoms unfold before our very eyes, which I'm excited to see that. Also, if you haven't already, drop into the chat. What commander do you think is going to be the most powerful rally leader? What commander do you think is the most powerful garrison captain? My personal bet, based on what I've seen so far, is that perhaps Nebuchadnezzar is going to be the jam for rallies. Perhaps Zenobia will be the garrison. However, let's see. Here we are. We're going to get into this matchup, and we will be joined by the esteemed Dragothian to take us into the match. Here we go. Let's smash that watch button.
Hello, all you wonderful Rise of Kingdoms players out there. This is Dragothian. Thank you very much, Chisco, for the lead-in. This is going to be a matchup that we are going to be anxiously waiting to get started. We've got just over 2 minutes left, and I can't wait to see these two juggernauts of alliances between the realm of Horus and the realm of Anubis get started. We did have last season an Osiris Invitational that really was heavily dominated by the realm of Horus. So that was because, again, a lot of those main alliances in the realm of Horus have been there. They've done that. They've been doing it together for quite a while. Well, now the tables have kind of shifted. A lot of these later realm of Anubis teams are original realm of Horus alliances that have migrated backwards to experience the early part of the game again, to build a solid team together. So with everything being even, with everything being equal, like Chisco was saying earlier, we're looking to have a very solid match against each other. I'm looking for 3 matches here. I really want to see 1-1 on the first 2, and let's see that third match to see who's going to be taking home the gravy, the rewards. It's a take all, win it and take everything type of matchup here, Chisco. What are you looking to see as we get this next minute and a half wait time out of the way and getting these players on the battlefield so we can see some clashes?
Yeah, well, I think there's actually several important things that we need to talk about before the start of the matchup. The first is that because players have access to every single commander in the game, my anticipation is that this is going to be an Ark of Osiris game, my friends. It's all about the Ark of Osiris in the center. That is my prediction. The reason is as follows. When every player has access to every commander, that means when you send commanders to something like the Sky Altar, you could, theoretically, have 5, 6 different garrison captains and combinations present with top tier builds and commanders, which means you can counter literally any rally your opponent sends. You expect several different rallies, you can counter them all. Whatever they send, you have the best counter for. So, to me, that opens up the possibility for an arc-centric game if defense is the dominant play. What do you think, Dragothian?
Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%. We're looking at having the newest commanders available, right? And you mentioned it earlier. Nebuchadnezzar is going to be available. Cyrus the Great, I think, is going to be a huge factor in this matchup. Look to see Cyrus with Ramses rallies going out along with open field marches to support. I think that's going to be a heavy one as we got 5 seconds left. It's going to be interesting. We're going to see how this plays out. I love watching the front of the gate area as it drops that gate and all of the marches pour out. You see those T1 Cav marches flooding out immediately to go capture those obelisks. Let's see if they try and ninja those obelisks too. That's been a pretty heavy play lately.
Yeah, one of the things that teams have been doing at the start of the matchup is sending lots of T1s to the opposing side, because when you lose troops, you gain energy for alliance skills. So it's conceivable, perhaps, that that's a thing they would do in order to get more energy at the start, sending those T1s that they don't otherwise need. But here we see some expert maneuvering on the part of V636 in red as they make their way to the first obelisk, and we're using this as an opportunity to showcase exactly how teams should go and capture these obelisks at the start of the matchup. You're moving through structures using mobility talents with very fast-moving commanders like Double C to get to those structures quickly. This part of the matchup, Dragothian, it's all scripted, right? They've planned exactly who's going where and who's doing what?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. We are looking to have all this stuff play out as normal. You've got the rallies going out. You've got OV Slouty sending out his march. I see, let's see, Belisarius led army rally going out. That's going to get that rally really quickly to that obelisk. You can see both of these teams capturing their outpost right away, getting really heavily into this matchup here. Chisco, tell me what we're going to be seeing as these things get taken up.
Well, you know, I'm noticing something just now that surprises me. We're seeing a 4 rally configuration for OV and 3 rallies only for V636. So normally you rally both of your obelisks and both enemy obelisks, and then you potentially break one of those rallies if needed. And wait a minute. We've got a major delay over here. Major delay. Over 30 seconds, it seems, of delay for V636 getting their bottom obelisk. That is not a good sign.
I agree. And I think there's a audio problem on my side, by the way. I think I'm very low on my volume. Just to give you a heads up, they're not able to hear me very well. But yeah, I agree. Here's now just one army coming down here to capture this bottom obelisk. This is going to be interesting. The rally's right behind it. I do see a couple marches, including John Wick, coming in here right away. Let's see if this is going to be a conflict where maybe they're going to lose this obelisk right off the bat.
Yeah, we've cranked up Dragothian's volume. If you couldn't hear him fine before, you'll hear him fine now. There's the rally arriving to the obelisk.
What you
wish for. Yeah. And just in time, by the way, offensive rally from OV. Jigglypuff on their way in with John Wick. It looks like this is all T1. They're trying to sneak their way into this obelisk. Don't think that's going to be successful given that the defensive rally did arrive to protect the structure there. And that does prove to be true. Interesting that they are... Oh, there it is. They did switch the captains to Zenobia. So here is perhaps a preview of what V636 thinks the best garrison might be. There are all those T1 troops from OV doing exactly as we described, creating a world in which perhaps they generate more energy so they can use more of the crucial skills that are available to them. And that's Zenobia in the garrison with Wu Zetian secondary doing some work. But all of these obelisks are under pressure. Each of these rallies seems to be playing out and teams using that as an opportunity perhaps to get some energy. Same taking place on the part of the V636 offense. Look at all these T1 marches pouring in.
Goodness. Yep, I was just looking at that one as you started describing it. There's what, 6, 7? Well, now there's 5 and 4 and 3 and 2 because they're instantly getting destroyed. All those double C-led marches are looking like they are mean, but in all reality, with them all being T1 or maybe even a little bit of T4 in there, it's just not looking good for the offense on V636's side. But as we say that, OV porting in right on top of those marches. They're just trying to get their marches back. The battles are set, right? The lines are set. They've gotten their structures. They've taken their obelisks. Now again, at the bottom, that's a 50-second delay. 50 seconds until V636 can port into that bottom obelisk area. That's a huge, huge deal when it comes to getting the rallies set up on this bottom lane. Now, as these buildings are opening up, looks like everybody got them. However, heavy, heavy, heavy battle already on the bottom lane at that desert altar.
Yeah, I mean, if you are in the shoes of OV, if there were ever a time for offense on one of these structures, even though we do believe this is a defensive game, we think that defense is the stronger play, now's the time to be on the offensive on this structure because V636 was so slow in capturing their obelisk that, you know, they can't teleport up and actually reinforce this thing properly, although it does look like V636 is doing an amazing job getting their troops over here in order to protect the structure. What do you think of this Herald Garrison captain, by the way? Do you see what I'm seeing?
I do, and I don't think it's intentional. I think that the garrison captain is still stuck in his base waiting to teleport in, which has now officially happened. They're coming in, and sure enough, there's a Zenobia from Babong coming in hot, trying to make sure he gets over there. But I guess Guan would be a little bit better, right? A little bit better. But V636 is going to be on their back heels because of this delayed start, especially on the bottom lane. With 6 minutes left to go until that first arc spawns, I'm looking to see some rallies coming out. But guess what? Look at the top of the middle lane. Look at all the blue lines already coming to the middle for OV. It's like we're just going to keep our stuff and we're going to go take these arcs, okay? That's what we're going to do.
Yeah.
We're going to do that right now.
I mean, OV signaling already that they think this just might be all about the arcs. They're going to the center 5 minutes and 30 seconds before the arc is going to spawn in. And it does look like, you know, although Dragothian, we're saying V636 is a little bit on the back foot with the bottom lane. I'll say that, okay, perhaps they are on the back foot, but there was no real punish from OV. There was no action that OV took to really punish the fact that they are porting in late. They didn't take the Desert Altar. They didn't pressure or take the Shrine of Life, which means it didn't actually matter all that much that there was perhaps that little stumble, and we see that V636 is on their way to the middle of the map as well. The question then becomes, who has the critical mass of troops in the middle first in order to drive the way this Temple of Osiris battle is going to unfold? Because it looks like OV has got the numbers, and if they just move up on this battlefield, they may be able to engage the smaller number of V636 players, wipe them out before their reinforcements can arrive. V636 is on the verge of losing a lot of battlefield position.
Yeah, they are. And that's what I mean by being on the back foot. So they're not necessarily just losing structures all over the place, right? But they gave themselves an early advantage to get into and in front of, as you can see right now, this arc area, the Temple of Osiris being a critical spot here in the next 4 minutes to go ahead and grab yourselves a cool 3,000 points right off the bat. And because they were so delayed, because of all these delayed port-ins at the bottom, we have players like Ken Candy here at the bottom on the obelisk just getting those 5 marches out just now.
Let me interject, Dragothian. We see huge offensive play here with it looks like a dozen or more marches from V636. They're going for the outside lane Sky Altar in the bottom, trying to take this thing down. Mega swarm on that Zenobia garrison, and it looks like it's working. Rally led by Nebuchadnezzar is going to fall, but the volume of troops that are involved in this swarm is most likely going to overwhelm this garrison. And oh my goodness, we said it wasn't going to be a game of buildings. However, look at all of the buildings under pressure right now. Rally is being led against the Shrine of War. Looking up top, Shrine of Life is under pressure. It does seem like V636 is running the strategy of pressuring the buildings furthest away from the temple area, which is an interesting strategy because that is the furthest away from where OV is right now.
I agree, and that's a sound strategy. I mean, it looks like this altar is going to fall in favor of V636. That's a solid play. If they're all going to be in the middle, well, let's go over to the outside most lanes here and take some of those structures. And those are heavy structures. Those are not anything to sneeze at. I know they're not the buffs from your Shrine of Wars, but you get that Sky Altar there on the top, the bottom left lane there. That's a great steal for V636 as this middle fight starts to go ahead and get kicked off here. I'd look to see, as we see all these buffs go and start popping off for both sides, this is going to really tell how this match is going to be played. If we can see V636 really hold their own at least and not start streaming back home with sad faces instantly, then I think we're going to be seeing a nice tight fight.
Yeah, I mean, I am a little surprised. Did you see? It looked like V636 had just activated their ability to get a few more teleports, which actually they did use all those teleports. So I suppose that was worth it. But that's not the skill I would have expected them to pop right before this big brawl in the middle. I would have expected literally any combat-related ability. But I suppose this is going to last long enough that people can port forward and then make their way into this contest, right?
Yeah, and if you look as well, you can start seeing a precursor of what's about to happen. So that Sky Altar that just got taken by V636, every single march that just did that is now pouring into the middle from the back side of the lane. So they're going to be looking for a little bit of a sandwich action. If they're either going to go to the middle and try and sandwich, or they're going to try and take the Shrine of War. I think they're going to go to the middle because they need as many people inside the middle as possible, cutting off those reinforcements, cutting off all of those fighters. And as we are just counting down a little less than a minute until this arc spawns, OV is seeing this. I see John Wick looking to pull some people back away from the Ark of Osiris spawn point. The temple looks like it's completely covered, and this could go either way. I think V636, while they are losing the battle itself, I think they've got OV spaced out a little farther back than I think that they wanted to be. They wanted to hold that front line a little closer towards the V636 side so that they could hold that space and give their arc runner, whoever it ends up being, a good head start when they grab that Ark of Osiris.
I have to say, I absolutely love V636's play here. They hold every single altar. That is an astonishing number of points that they will soon be gaining, or in the very least have denied from OV. OV seems to be all in on this arc, so if they don't get it, they're in trouble. But Dragothian, it does look like OV has the dominating numbers in the middle.
Has it? Yep.
But it doesn't necessarily matter. Now they have to get this arc because V636 is getting astonishing amounts of points and point denial from all the altars. And although OV has now taken one of them back, V636 still has 3 of them. I think this is a very interesting strategy being played by both teams. V636 reading correctly that OV would go middle. Perhaps V636 feeling like maybe that was not a fight they could win, or simply wanting to counter it, they took all the altars. I think it's a reasonable choice, especially at the start, because this arc is worth the least points of all the arcs.
It is, and something to kind of look at a counter strategy, right? So having really taken those altars, right? Now OV owns all of V636's outposts, and they're properly garrisoned. Chisco, I see a it looks like an Artemisia Nebuchadnezzar or an Artemisia Cyrus. I'm not 100%. Holding the right outpost, and then on the left outpost, that looks like it may eventually go down. Has a Guan inside there, and on the bottom there's a Zenobia in there with 2 Saladins swarming it. That's going to take forever. So I, even though they've gotten these altars right and they're denying the points, and I agree that's a sound strategy, a lot better than I thought V636 was going to really kind of come out the gate swinging. I thought they were going to be a little more timid than they are. They are not. They are aggressive. They are heavily aggressive. But I think OV kind of weathered down that double altar loss just a little bit by taking and holding those outposts for a little bit of time too. About 90 points per minute in favor of them switching sides, and then that's going to go and help go against that 300 points per minute that they lost with the 2 altars.
It's true, and I just want to point out that you don't accidentally have a Zenobia that far downfield. So that is very much a by design play that they intended to take those and actually properly garrison them with a high sustain, very powerful commander like Zenobia. So they know exactly what they're doing there. It's not a coincidence that they took those, and it's a very good call out that normally perhaps you can let these structures kind of run free and you lose some, you win some of the outposts, but when you have every commander at your disposal, maybe you really do just have to have a full set of marches in those structures garrisoning them.
Yeah, I agree. And it looks like this altar eventually will go down, although it does have a Nebuchadnezzar holding pretty strong. I'm very surprised how well, now it's starting to go down a bit. I think a couple people hopped out of there to try and refresh some troops, but there's more reinforcements coming from V636 here. They've been holding this altar for quite some time. Not only have they stopped OV from having it generating from their points, but also they've taken it and started generating points for themselves, with the points per minute total being 650 for V636, over 290, now 320 points per minute for OV. That's a solid 330. Now it's at 470. So it's getting narrowed down a little bit more with these outposts starting to get retaken, the altar starting to get retaken, but that's still a pretty significant difference. We're seeing some heavy aggressive fighting from V636. I love to see this kind of fighting. I know it's not quite as glorious and intricate, but I just love seeing alliances that just want to go and pound their enemy into the ground. This is a good strategy, I think, at the end of the day. Let's see if that's going to pay off, though, as right now they've got a 1,500 point lead with a point per minute total lead, and this arc is still not quite captured just yet for OV.
Yeah, I mean, We look to the wisdom of Gandalf. A wizard is never late. They arrive precisely when they intend. I think OV is going to capture that arc precisely when they intend. And I think a part of what perhaps they will do is try to time it so that they feel like they've got all their structures in a good place again, so that they can go to the middle, have that dominant presence, and not be on the back foot for their main game plan, which looks like it's just taking arcs. But boy, I really like the V636 play there of the aggression on the structures for the first arc. Do I think that's the play for every arc? Not necessarily. But the first arc, that's really interesting because that arc is worth the least.
You're exactly right. And I think that that's a great way to look at it, right? The first arc, while it is valuable, right? It's 3,000 points. Let's not, throw that away. But it's the least valuable arc. So you got the second and the third arc, each increasing in value as you take them and as they spawn. OV is sitting here holding it at their outpost, now successfully capturing it. I'm not sure why the game is saying that it's halfway in between the arc and the outpost, but he did just capture it. That's now a 1,500 point lead in favor of OV, now having the lead. However, still there is a 60 point per minute advantage for V636 as these next buildings start to go ahead and recapture themselves for each one of these sides, and then everything's going to reset. Now we've got a little under 8 minutes left before the next arc spawns, being a 3,500 point capture coming in our way here. And with that being said, now we're starting to see some structure game. Let's see if we can see maybe if OV can maybe put some pressure on. I haven't really seen OV put any pressure on buildings yet, other than a few rallies with maybe 1 or 2 people swarming. Have you seen anything, Chisco?
The OV pressure is about to be turned up to 10.
Uh-oh.
They're on their way to the Shrine of War in the top lane. And it looks like we finally might have, I think this is, yes, a rally with Nebuchadnezzar on the part of OV. What I thought was really interesting earlier, did you notice that the OV rallies were Attila primary, Chandragupta secondary? But look at this. The Nebuchadnezzar rally swarmed out before it even arrived. Maybe it wasn't a full rally. Maybe this is just a distraction. I'm not sure. But I'll tell you this, the V636 defense, it's working.
I mean, it's kind of serendipitous that the V636 folks are red. They look like a army of red fire ants just swarming to anything that's not their color. That's the value of Attila, right? I mean, we have these 2 new archer commanders, and they're nice. They look really good. From what we've seen from testing and things like that, they're going to have value on the battlefield. But Attila is Attila for a reason. Attila Takeda is Attila for a reason. Attila Chandra is not Attila Takeda. That's just not. If you want to have a nice debuff behind a halfway decent Attila rally, then that's what you do. You do Attila Chandra. But if you want the most devastating anti-swarm rally in the game, you send Attila Takeda. That's why it is still used today. And as we see that, we see about 500 red army ants from V636 rolling back up to the desert altar on the top lane. And we got 5 minutes, 45 seconds left. That means that OV's coming to the middle again. Let's see if that's going to play out again, if it's going to do the exact same thing. We've got OV rallies going out, but there are so many V636 players just swarming everything that's getting sent. There's Guan rallies from OV. There's Nebuchadnezzar rallies from OV. There is Attila Chandra rallies from OV. I think they just need to stop getting cute with the rallies and just start ascending Attila Takeda. I know that Zenobia is so good, but it's not necessarily the reason you send Attila Takeda. You send it so that you can send it and not have to worry about it getting instantly swarmed down by 800 people.
Dude, I love what is happening in this game. We're watching 2 teams with 2 different strategies designed to counter each other playing out. It's amazing. It's amazing. One team, OV, saying, thank you very much. We're going to capture the Ark of Osiris. That's how we'll win. V636 on a different game plan entirely. While you all run to the middle, we're going to go take all your structures from out underneath you. This is very interesting. I don't know if this is the plan they're going to run with the entire time, but with 4 minutes and 30 seconds left until the center, man, I mean, it does look like for the second arc in a row, V636 is playing the structure game instead of the Ark game.
This is really kind of, I think, confusing OV a little bit. Not, they're seasoned, right? They've won 2 Osiris League playoffs, so they're not newbies by any means to this system. But I think it confuses them a little bit. They're not used to having to contend with their buildings this hard. This is a big push by V636. So harsh, in fact, that this Nebuchadnezzar rally, which we just saw get insta-swarmed down on the V636 side, is doing just fine on the OV side, because all the open field players from OV are having to either pour into that structure just to keep it, or they're having to try and take out these swarming armies. And there are so many armies here that these armies aren't all swarming the structure. There's just so many. Look at all of the red marches there. And if we go to the top right, it's looking pretty bad for the rally there. It looks like it just went down. But my goodness, look at all those armies.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of pressure right now on the Desert Altar. It looks like it will most likely fall. Once we know conclusively what's happened here, we'll get a look at the altar to the left side of the screen. In fact, no, we should go get a look here. What's going on this altar? Nothing too noteworthy. I will point out that both teams seems to be sending in sort of non-stop T1 troops to go fuel their energy bars for their alliance skills, which I think is very interesting. John Wick now activating Mystical Formation. That means combat will be in the center momentarily. We're watching that. We're watching that as OV creeps forward. Defensive Formation now active also for V636, meeting it and saying, okay, let's duel. I do think that OV has more players, though, in the middle.
Yeah, I think so, too. They always do, right? This everybody knows this. This is their bread and butter. This is where they make their points. This is where they win the game. This, provisioning and holding their structures as much as humanly possible. Now, they did just lose the Desert Altar again, and there is a crap ton of Red Army ants from V636 sitting around there and filling up that structure. So it's not going to go blue anytime soon, especially with having so many armies pour in on the OV side from the blue team away from that structure. So I think that that's going to be the Desert Altar for V636 to hold for the next 5-6 minutes at least. We got 33 minutes left in the game. If they can deny those points nonstop, it's a 1,500-point game in favor of OV right now. They can afford to lose this next arc and still be in it for the most part, as long as they are really driving the conversation when it comes to provisioning. Okay,
yeah.
So provisioning is going to be a big deal here.
That was so wild in the middle. We have to rejoin the matchup. We're back in. Still the crazy fray in the middle. There's too much happening, Dragothian. I can't handle it. The game can't even handle it. There's so much happening. It's amazing. I do think a part of what we're seeing unfold that makes this so spectacular in the middle is the to the death ability has been used by both teams. That's a once-a-game matchup. The all-in play. The all-in play, isn't it?
It's a once-per-use skill for the entire matchup, right? It's very difficult to say that if I'm going to place this skill down, I don't want whatever I'm going after. So both of these teams are really going hard. But again, like you said before, OV has a pretty sizable numerical advantage in the middle. Now, that's, again, translating into losing that Desert Altar on the top lane. Are they going to re-rally this bottom Sky Altar? It looks like they are, or at least have one march going that direction. I don't see anything else really happening across the map. There's only one rally going, and it's battling right now at that same Desert Altar that they just lost for OV. And it looks like they may keep it. I'm not sure. Or they may keep it, or they may take it back. I'm not quite sure. But with this middle fight here, Chiskel, both fight to the death going off. There are counter skills for fight to the death now, guys. You have to pay attention to what happened last time we did this on this channel when it was the 2 finalists for the Realm of Horus. You want to go take a peek and see the skill sequence after somebody did the fight to the death skill, and look what the next skill afterwards was done.
Yeah, I mean, what's interesting here is that if that counter was used, it's a big heal. Costs the same amount of energy as to the death.
It does.
But
that's what, yeah.
The commanders are all even here, though. So it'd just be interesting to see how that would work, given that everybody has access to the same commanders. And speaking of which, You know, I haven't been looking for this, but do you see a material difference between the commanders that the two sides are choosing to use? I think they
I
look
see a
about
lot
the
of
same.
Artemisia. Yeah, I see a
A
lot of
ton of
Artemisia. I see a
Artemisia.
lot of. Well, that's a good one to have. Open field and in garrison, you can easily, make her be a general utilized commander and be good in both spots. I think that's a good pick to have. Tons of Artemisia. I see William. I see Saladin. I see Guan. Those are your standards. I do see a couple heralds out there as well. Although again, Harold's got a little bit of value, but he's not necessarily to me a premier commander for this particular use. I think they've got the right picks. I see Ethelfleds. I do see some Constantines doing some area of effect attack debuffs. I mean, there's some good stuff here. I do see Takeda, which was likely going to be an arc runner, but now is in let's defend the guy who has the arc mode. So very good there. I see Alex. Yes, absolutely. You see the right commanders out on the battlefield. Both sides are using the right commanders. I just think that man, OV just knows how to get this arc done in the middle. They don't lose arcs very often. There's a reason why. They know how to do that little bundle in the middle and just AoE everything into the ground.
Yeah, I mean, they've got one goal, and they're executing on that plan very well. And although V636 was able to play that structure game so well for the first arc, I thought that was an amazing counter to what OV was doing. They weren't able to pull that off nearly as successfully the second time around. They had an altar, but only one of OV altars, and it was only for a short period of time that they had it. So this is a very different landscape now for this second arc, and OV is looking very, very strong from this position of now carrying this arc back toward one of their structures, and not quite even, they're down by like 600 points, but a nearly even score. I mean, this is not the scoreboard that V636 wants to be looking at if they're playing the building game.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think V636 wanted to have at least that Desert Altar still in their possession like it was before during the last arc. And, I mean, the match is currently almost even right now. So if they can go ahead, OV's going to capture this arc, right? There's just so many OV protecting this arc carrier, and I just don't see anything happening other than an outstanding capture and quick ninja cap on that Desert Altar or something like that. I don't know if maybe the arc is heading towards the obelisk. That's probably the safer place to take it, and it looks like that's exactly what they're doing. Because that Desert Altar could be under contention very, very quickly. And if you got to spread out over the obelisk and the Desert Altar, I think the obelisk is the better place to go since your cities are right there to go ahead and try and defend any kind of shenanigans that V636 wants to go ahead and try and get done. But V636 is doing what I think that they wanted to do, just maybe not as effective this second time around. OV has always adapted very well to different strategy. This is one that I don't think that they've seen, at least not to this level, in quite some time or at all.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty well run by OV, and now they've got an interesting question. Do they score this, or do they hold on to the arc?
I think OV needs to capture as many arcs as humanly possible. That's their thing.
It is their thing. I agree with you. More often than not, we see arc holding fanciness not work out for teams. And given that OV is 2 for 2, 2 for 2 here on capturing these arcs, I think why not go for 3 out of 3, right?
I mean, it's what they do, and you get those first 2 arcs captured so that you can have that last, heavy 4,500 point, arc in your pocket at the very end. Because, even if you're provisioning really well, right, you have to kind of bank on the fact that maybe your enemy is doing a little more provisioning. And if you're even right now, even having, 1 arc in your pocket right now with 26 minutes left in the game, that's a lot of time for your enemy to come over and start taking some of your structures while you're sitting there holding an arc. And then you got to worry about maybe them taking your obelisk where you're sitting with your arc and then doing a little bit of shenanigans and grabbing that arc and capturing it in an obelisk. I think if you're OV, you cap this arc, you reset first, then cap the arc, and then go ahead and do exactly what you've been doing this whole game, which is holding tough, capturing some of their outposts during the fight, which is they did it again. You see those 2 outposts blue. And just get the arcs. That's 15,000 points whenever they capture all those arcs throughout the match. If they can get a 4th one out, that'll be 15,000 points. If not, it's I think it's 12,000 or 11,500 points or something like that. So I mean, there's points to be had. OV needs to get those points. This is how they get those points.
Yeah. Huge contest still taking place at that altar north of the temple area. Pretty impressive battle taking place here. OV doing just what they do so well, which is exactly the right amount of commitment. Not more, not less, to wherever it is that they're trying to achieve something. This garrison is incredibly low. We zoom in on that. I mean, you can see the Zenobia is incredibly low. Now back up to the yellow, though. I think this defense looks like it might be successful. And it's just impressive how they have committed just enough troops to get the job done.
They do. That's such a great point out. You know, some it doesn't matter whether you're a heavily seasoned veteran of Osiris League and Ark of Osiris, or if you're a brand new player just starting to play the game and really starting to get into the Ark type of combat system. It doesn't matter who you are. If you see your structure and 20 armies surrounding it, pounding it into the ground, you're going to be like, everybody get there. Everybody go to this building so you can hold it. That's going to be your initial reaction. That's not OV. They tend to have just enough folks there to do the job, which is don't let that flip to the other color. They do a great job of doing that. With more of these armies from V636 kind of coming in willy-nilly at the very end, they are kind of there, but there's no rally and support just yet. Looks like they're trying to bring up a little bit of support for maybe another rally here. I see a Nebuchadnezzar on the field there too. You know, they just do a great job of it. OV is always in the right place at the right time for the most part. Now, I got to point it out, right? We've got an Ark captured, okay? So it's basically a 3,300 point match right now in favor of OV. That's well within the realm of one Ark capture. So V636 is in this matchup for the long run, 23 minutes remaining. Now, they do just lose at the bottom lane. And again, this is kind of the way to beat what OV does, right? Just go, they have to kind of get them all over the map. This is a big map. It doesn't look big, but it's a huge map when you're talking about coordinating 30 players across it.
Yeah. I mean, it's so important that OV has literally every one of their players switched to the Ottoman civilization, I believe, for the march speed. Maybe they're using a different civilization, for infantry, but they have everybody switch to get some march speed, and I don't blame them. It makes a ton of sense. And I am impressed that 636 is yet again sitting on 3 altars.
Even if they're not captured yet, and it looks like this Chandra is going to go down on the bottom lane there, and rightfully so. Chandra is not a garrison commander, but they're doing what they need to do. They're disrupting the points. And they're losing the arcs, right? V636 is losing all the arcs so far. But if they can do what they're doing now and then capture the last arc, can you imagine? Because that's what really, I mean, OV's Achilles heel, and that's why you see 6 minutes, 40 seconds left. That's why they're going to the middle so early, because if they don't capture one of these arcs and their opponents do, that's a dagger in OV's strategy. OV's strategy hinges on owning all the arcs. They have to take them. They have to have them. If they don't, they're going to lose because they're losing their structures on the back end. They're not generating a whole lot of points there. They have to have the arcs. That's where they win.
Yeah. V636 really brilliantly executing the counterpoint to OV's really established strategy. I suppose that's the downside of being the well-known entity, is people know what you do. And OV, very much not used to being the overdog in these situations. Now they are the overdog, the well-known quantity, the one that teams have been studying, and the flaws, the chinks in the armor found and being exploited here.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, not much is I mean, I know V636 was the champion for Realm of Anubis, right? But they're fairly new to the scene when it comes to, or at least the alliance is new to the scene. I know a lot of these players that are in this alliance have fought in other Osiris League teams and earlier kingdoms, but that doesn't mean anything. Like, if you have a new alliance with a new set of players, you're starting from scratch. You're just working with really good ingredients, right? So OV, having been there, done that, they won season 1. They came pretty close in season 2, and then they won season 3 of Osiris League. And their strategy has evolved quite a bit, but really at the core of their strategy has always been very, very good arc play. And having known that, V636 can see that. They can study all their games. They're on this Rise of Kingdoms channel, not to mention all of our individual sponsored content creator channels, right? We all have these videos out for study. Like, this is just like a sport, right? They go and they watch the video, they watch the tape.
Oh yeah, they watch the tape, baby.
All that.
Oh yeah. They watch the tape, and look at this outside lane contest for the Shrine of Life. And the obelisk falling. V636 on the warpath for offense here, taking buildings.
Wow.
Is this a mistake, though? Is it the wrong place to be? Isn't this that last arc you were talking about, Dragothian?
It depends on how it's played. So if they there's time for two. There's time for two if it's done quickly. And that's the thing. Is OV going to go ahead and hold this and make this the last arc, or are they going to go ahead and cap it and maybe allow one more arc to spawn and have a massive middle fight? I don't know. I see buffs popping off in the middle all over the place, but the way I look at V636's strategy right now is disrupt the points as much as possible right now. They're being very effective with that, with the obelisk and Shrine of Life captures. They did just lose the Sky Altar at the bottom as well about 3 minutes ago, but that also disrupted the points. It's a 220 point per minute game right now in favor of V636. They need that, but if they have that and they capture the Ark, that is a huge dagger in OV's strategy and game plan, and one they're going to have to recover from with provisioning and with taking back these structures for their favor and maybe grabbing even a V636 structure or two.
Yeah, I mean, I may not be reading the battlefield correctly here, but to me, this looks and feels materially the same to the last couple arcs. So unless we see something very different from 636, I'm concerned for them that OV is continuing to commit more heavily to the middle and is going to get this arc. And OV's got the lead. OV's got the lead by a solid 2,500 points. I mean, the ball is truly in the court of 636. They have to take the action. They have to do something different here.
There's Heaven's Grace. So somebody just used Heaven's Grace. Which one was that?
Hard to see. It's all flying on the screen so fast.
I saw the skill being used.
Swift Stride as well for 636. I mean, they know they need more people in the middle.
I don't know if that was the right play.
They're giving everybody march speed. I'm not sure either.
Yeah. See, that's tough. So again, this is worth 4,000 points. Okay, they need this point. They need these points to really start to take ownership of this match. But they're going to need some of that movement speed. They're going to need some of that, some of those alliance skill points to win this middle fight, which is really the end game of the whole situation here. If you're not winning the middle fight, it doesn't matter how fast you're moving to get people there. You're just getting them there faster to die. So you need to make sure that you've got what it takes to win the middle. They are pouring everybody into the middle. I just see streams from both teams, blue and red, just pouring into the middle. I see Nebuchadnezzar getting floated in there as well from both lanes on the bottom and the top. It looks like V636 is trying to take a little bit of a page out of OV's book and harassing some of these outposts. Although I got to tell you, I'm looking at some of these caravan areas as well. I see OV farming a lot more than I see V636 farming. So that combination may be their dagger for V636. They may win this middle fight, although I still don't see it with what I see happening in the middle. OV is just responding appropriately, but the farming, I think, will go towards OV, the provisioning.
Yeah, this is a dangerous moment for V636. So, Dragothian, what do they do? If V636 is about to lose the middle, and I think they are, what's the play? If you can't have the middle, what do you do?
Well, I mean, there's only two other things to generate points, right? It's the structures and the provisioning, and you can't just instantly start reprovisioning more. And provisioning is has become more of a real thing when it comes to generating points for your team, for Ark and for Osiris League. But at the end of the day, disrupting points with 15, almost 16 minutes left, that's a substantial amount of time to start disrupting points and taking these structures. OV, like we said, does usually have just enough to hold some of these structures, but they're also committing heavily to the middle. This is the time to take those structures, but I don't know if being reactionary and doing that is going to be or give the effect that you want to have. Their strategies, they being V636, has kind of counted on being a little light at these structures because of how heavily OV commits to the middle. And they did take a couple structures, but they weren't able to necessarily keep them to really start driving home some points. And now with this Ark popped, and again, OVGIA has the Ark and is running, taking off with it, I'm not sure if there really is anything to do right this second. There's not really much that can be done right this second to address it. I think it's just going to have to be a consistent change over to maybe just taking every structure in the game on the map, and then out provisioning, because I mean they're winning the arcs. They just win the arcs every single time, or just go every single player to the middle as soon as this arc is captured, assuming that they leave enough time, which they should. Send everybody to the middle.
Yeah. We can barely keep up with the intensity of the combat on our device here. Yeah, we're on our way back in. I have to say, if you are in the shoes of 636, is it possible to rally the Desert Altar and swarm it? I don't think that's enough because OV just goes a different direction, right?
Yeah, just take you'd have to concertedly, with a concerted effort, rally all three structures and take them all. So Desert Altar, Shrine of Life, and Obelisk, and even Outpost to a certain degree. You would need some people over there. You have to look at the different pieces of the game in different ways. So Arc is your burst points, right? That's where you get your 3,000, 3,500, 4,000, 4,500 points, bam, right instantly as soon as you grab it and capture it, right? But the structure game is one of those things that you have to work on throughout the entire match, and so is the provisioning. If you're losing the arc game, which is what OV tries to make sure their opponents do every single arc spawn, if they haven't figured out how to kind of get around that, they usually aren't going to have time or have the ability to do it anyway. It needs to be something that they need to have been doing since the beginning of the match. Like, you can't just quickly grab an extra few thousand structure points. Like, it's just not how it works. You need to have those structures now. You need to be taking those buildings now. There's no instant reaction other than, hopefully for V636, OV captures this arc and gives V636 a chance to grab the last arc. That's really the only play here for V636.
That sounds right. I mean, at this point, it seems so unlikely. It's sort of too late even to take this altar, and they're not even going to the altar. Which, by the way, can we talk about that for a second? Hasn't OV scored the arc? Is it every time at either, I guess it was once to the Shrine of War, but it seems like they're constantly running back to their obelisk rather than one of these structures that can be contended, right?
Yeah, and if you're going to rally something over here to get troops over here, it would have to be a city, right? Otherwise, you're rallying an obelisk, which is only a million troops. You can really just kind of rely on the fact that you have reinforcements sitting there with cities just being there, right? You're going to have more reinforcements the closer you get to your obelisk. The first one was captured at the outpost, but that's just because it went fairly uncontested after leaving the middle lane there. In fact, so uncontested that the arc carrier was able to kind of go AFK for a minute and sit there in the middle of the map on the sand without anything happening to him while he was kind of assessing what was happening around him. But these last two have been towards the obelisk, and that's just because the reinforcements are coming from there. They're right there. Why wouldn't you take it that way? You can capture it in not only the obelisk, but any of those cities. And you can just kind of sit there and have unlimited reinforcements to save you if V636 decided to do any kind of shenanigans. But there's not really many shenanigans to be done. They're trying to get this Sky Altar back is OV, or Desert Altar, excuse me. They did just capture it a minute ago, did V636, and they've got a proper garrison, Zenobia Theos, sitting there holding that structure. But I just don't think it's enough. 11 minutes left. It's a almost 2,000 point game. It's a 1,700 point game, but the Ark is 4,000 points for the taking, and if OV takes it, that's just going to be really hard to come back from. The provisioning is going to be a huge deal, but like I said, just looking throughout the match, I think provisioning is leaning towards the OV side. I may be wrong, but just looking at the map and the actual farming that's happening, I do see V636 farming as well. I just see more marches out at these caravans for OV.
So I do see, interesting enough, that V636 may actually get every altar again. If they could hold on to all 4 altars for 10 minutes, I still don't know if that's enough. Not only would there be point denial, there would also be point gain for them, but it would be so hard for them to hold these forward altars. There it is. Boom. All 4. Is V636 doing the thing that might save them, or is it still not quite enough, even if they execute this perfectly?
Well, it's a 300 point per minute game right now. If they hold everything the way it is, for the next 3 minutes, it'll be 300 points per minute. So that's 900 points. Then you've got the actual capture of the altars, which will be another 300 points per minute. So now it's 600 points per minute for 7 minutes. So that's 4,200 points. And then you have to assume that OV does not capture another Ark, which they kind of do that quite a bit. So
I mean, it will be tough for them to get one more Ark if it's contended at all even, right? 7 minutes left till it spawns, 9 minutes, 20 seconds left in the game. You can theoretically carry the Ark that fast, but any contention whatsoever would stop that.
Would eliminate that.
Yeah, so did we actually find a path to victory for V636 if they hold these altars? I mean, I didn't think they'd even get them, but they've got them.
I mean, they've got them.
They've got them. They've done it.
But
now they've got to hold it.
OV does have the Ark captured, so they can now refocus every single one of their open field troops to getting those back. And, you know, I do see the Shrine of War on the bottom lane here that was under contention. Now it's not. You know, they're resorting their marches out immediately after killing that last army from V636. This top lane Desert Altar is under heavy assault, and now all those troops that were escorting the Ark are now pouring down from that obelisk area, and it's looking mighty suspicious. V636 looking a little sus on that garrison and having a heavy dose of OV from the blue team coming down and starting to take out some of these swarming marches and refilling what looks to be emptying marches from V636 marches are just kind of going away now because of all these fighters coming down from OV. The bottom Sky Altar, though, looks a lot better. There's some fresh troops out there on the open field. It is a Guan garrison, which is a little bit rough there for V636, but I'm assuming there's a Zenobia or a Theodora heading in this direction to take care of that. But I just don't think it's enough, Chisco. I really don't. I think that they are going to give it their honest shot, but they've got to hope and pray as much as humanly possible.
Yeah, I mean, they're kind of doing right now. V636 is doing right now the one only path we could envision that might hypothetically close the gap. And they're doing it, though. They have all 4 altars. I mean, they're actually pulling that off. I did not think that was accomplishable.
They do have all 4 right now, and they are generating points right now. V636 is consistently pouring troops up on the top lane, but this Zenobia looks like it's going to go down here in the next few seconds. Let's see if they can grab. I mean, that's a big deal. They have to keep it. If anything of what you're saying is going to happen, you can't lose this Desert Altar.
They have to keep
every single point generating in your favor. And with 4 minutes, 40 seconds in the middle, let me see what the middle looks like. It's empty.
I know. They have to, like, 636 has to keep this. They've lost it. They've lost it. Crucial. Crucial pickup for OV there.
But look, send everybody in the middle right now. If I were V636,
you think so?
Send everybody in the middle right now.
I don't know, man. It's got to be a perfect carry.
Everybody to the middle right now in front of the Temple of Osiris. Everybody in the middle.
They do have the march speed ability, too. If the march speed ability is off cooldown,
it should be.
Which I'm not sure it is, but it might be. It's a 10-minute cooldown. I think it might be off cooldown. They may actually be able to score one more Ark. Do they know this? Do you think they know this? I don't think they know this.
They should know this.
Have they realized it?
They don't get to this point and not know this.
Okay.
I would think.
They can get one more Ark.
Coming.
I don't see. If this is the one way, I mean, Dragothian, you have to play to win rather than play to not lose. If playing to win is going for the 1% chance you can score this arc, then you have to play the 1% odds, right?
I mean, this is the only percent odds. They have to get into the middle and take this temple.
Okay, so it's the
middle. Because they don't have the building.
Yeah, it's the middle. So, but OV sees it, dude.
Do you see provisioning coming in
OV sees this is the only way. So they're going middle already. They're doing it.
I mean, they have to. I mean, I see a Constantine rolling, and then now everybody's like, oh my God, we have to go to the middle. So now everybody's pouring into the middle with 3 minutes left. If V636 was already positioned, and of course, this is obviously hindsight. This is, side seat jockey driving, right? If they were already provisioned in front of the Temple of Osiris, and I don't know why that Chandra is not going and pounding on that Constantine. Get rid of that Constantine right now. If I was that player right there. But I don't think that there's any other way to do this, but having your troops already there, there's just no way. There's no way.
I don't know. I mean, 636 has 4 marches or so. OV has 5 marches. I mean, it's not decided yet. 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Teams have some time to figure it out. But look at the points per minute. Still looking. Oh, there's Swift Stride.
Swift Stride
for 636. That's interesting. They're getting everybody to the middle. I don't know if I would, pardon me, use that to get everybody to the middle or to try to get the arc out of there.
Well, if you have running charge as well, you could get Swift Stride to get everybody there, and then you could use running charge to get the arc carrier out. I don't know.
I don't think they do. You're right that if they had both, but I don't think we've seen the other one. So I'm going to assume they don't have it, which is why I'm curious that they're making that play. To I guess at this point they're like, oh, we're late to the middle.
It's just too slow.
Yeah,
it's just too slow. If they had the right idea, Kuhn the Fool had the right idea, Vushka had the right idea, Peter K had the right idea, Remove Game had the right idea, but everybody else is just a couple minutes too far behind. Killer B, Bread, they're coming. But like we said before, right, this is a big map. And they just lost their Desert Altar, by the way, on the bottom lane.
Yeah.
OB took that. So, I mean, they have to have this arc, and they have to have a hefty provisioning total. And it has to be uncontested. And it's a minute and 9 seconds left before that spawns. But OV already in the middle, already buffed, already forward. I mean, you missed your window. And there's no way for them to have known that, right? I mean, they had to have been just seeing into the future to know we need all of our troops in this spot at this moment 5 minutes before anybody would ever think to have that be the case.
The minutes matter in the Ark of Osiris League Grand Finals with 3 minutes remaining. 40,845 points for OV. 36,800 points for V636. The only remaining path to victory for V636 is an arc breakaway, and that is against all odds because they are now outnumbered at the temple. But could it happen? We can't call the match. It's not fair to call the match. 15 seconds until the arc spawns. There are carriers available for V636 standing by the arc. Even a double Z moving past the arc. Heading to the other side of the map.
So it looks like there's some back end V636 as well. But again, we just said this arc cannot be contended. If it's contended, it's over. Again, OV grabbing the arc right away. I mean, it's so tough. These guys just know how to capture the arc instantly. I've seen this time and time again. You think you've got it, and then magically somebody clicked the escort button just a tenth of a second before you did. And then, of course, it's on the other team, and they're gone. And now it's contended, right? It's 1 minute and 44 seconds. That's about how long it takes for that arc to capture. So that's basically the game here. Unless some provisions happen, in which 2,500 point game right now, provisions are still heavily in play here. If there are more provisions coming for V636, now is the time. I do see farms out like crazy for V636. There is a possibility, but we're going to have to count down these last minute and 20 seconds until this goes down. Killer B grabs it, but loses it. There's just not enough time, Chisco, for that.
No, at this point, the middle is moot. There's nothing that could happen in the middle that will be relevant. It's all about the caravanning to round out the scores, and if both teams have done that equally, and we might assume that that is the case, then this match just might be on its last leg here.
It is, and I see at the top here, Shrine of Life just got taken from V636, but it's kind of pointless. There's less than a minute left.
Yeah. The point disruption there is not meaningful enough to make the difference. So as we watch in these final moments, Dragothian, what would you say was the defining elements of this matchup?
I don't know if there was one, just going. That's probably the first time I've ever said that in any of these really high level matches that we've seen on this channel, right? It's this match was really defined by a couple points. OV doing what they do best, which is capturing the Ark and owning the middle. But V636 making a statement on really the counter, possibly, to what OV does by really heavily relying on the structure game and provisioning game and trying to take just one Ark. Because as you see right now, it's about a 2,500, 2,600 point match. Any Ark point total would have won that match. So if they can just grab one.
One Ark would have done the deal for V636. However, Pedro Justin from OV, the MVP with 127,000 points of Kingdom 52, looking to that final score, 46,183 for OV, the Season 1 and Season 3 League champions. Vietnam victory, 43,569 points. Looking in at the scoreboard here, it's all about those arcs. 10,500 of the points of OV came from arcs. Occupation score, 31,377. And even provision score, by the way, in the favor of V636. Looking to the total kills and severe wounds, it does look like OV was the more dominant presence on the field, which is noteworthy because both teams had equal access to commanders here. Dragothian, what are your final thoughts on how this played out?
I think these numbers really summarize what we were just talking about, that last 45 seconds of the match, Jiskel. I will say V636 out-provisioning OV. That was a surprise to me, and one that I did not predict. So Crow getting eaten over here. We did expect the occupation score to be this skewed because of how heavy V636 went in. And I think really, like we identified towards the end of this match, the Achilles heel that is this OV strategy will always be, if they lose one arc, they are in trouble. They're in huge trouble, because if they can keep doing what they're doing, right? If an opponent of OV, if they can do what V636 just did, but just grab one arc, right? You can lose 500 points on the occupation score. You can lose 500 points on the provisioning score by bringing all those extra marches to the middle, right? If you can just take that middle arc one time, if you're an opponent of OV, you've got a shot. And it's not impossible, but it's also not easy. So kudos to OV for such a great match and showing really what a well-rounded Arc team they are. Look at the spread in points. 10,000, 24,000, and 11,500. I mean, that's about as even as you tend to get it on an Arc team score. That's pretty substantial. But that big goose egg on the right side for V636, where Arc score you should be, that's where the difference was. Let's see if they do that next week and adjust a little bit.
Yeah, really eager to see how this plays out next week. Dragothian, thank you for joining us. We're going to head on back to the caster's booth. Any farewell comments you'd like to make before we go?
Nope. Thanks, brother. I appreciate it. It's been fun as always. Thank you for having me. I love hosting with you, Chisco. So let's keep on doing this. Looking forward to next week. See if V636 will alter their strategy any, or maybe execute just a little bit better and beat the reigning Realm of Horus champions OV.
All right. Thank you, Dragothian. A pleasure as always, and let's head on back to the booth. What an incredible matchup that was. V636 dominating the structure game in a way I could not have expected. But OV with the answer, taking every single Ark of Osiris and capping those points. Huge, incredible game. Well played. The score now 0 for V636 and 1 for Overlord OV. There are, however, more matches to be had. We'll be back next week. Likely Dragothian and I casting again to showcase what happens in the next round. This is a best 2 out of 3. It's not over. So consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. If you enjoyed this cast, do us a favor, throw a like on the video to show that you enjoyed having us cast. And until next time, my friends, good luck in your Ark of Osiris matches, and we'll see you next week for the Osiris League Grand Finals Match 2. Hopefully, it'll be another close one, and maybe we'll even get a third match if we're lucky, so we can all get some more Oryx. But we'll see you there to find out.